tested were weight variation tests to ensure uniformity of dosage units within a batch, identification to confirm authenticity of the active pharmaceutical ingredient, assay testing, ASSAY testing. So, does the tablet contain what the label claims? Dissolution testing. Does the medicine release properly in your body? Impurity profiling. Are there any harmful contaminants? So, annual savings with cheapest generics. Liver medicine, rupees 16,000. Antibiotic, rupees 10,000. Overall, diabetes, heart diseases, infections, pain, stomach issues, rupees 6,000. Every single medicine passed all quality tests. So, medicines tested were pain or fever or acetaminophen. Price difference for branded versus generics from Jan Aushadhi was 2.3 times. Antibiotic, which is amoxicillin, was 2.4 times. Cholesterol or atorvastatin, price difference branded versus generics from Jan Aushadhi was 6.4 times. Calcium plus vitamin D was 13.7 times. Heart, which is clopidogrel, was 4.1 times. Gout, febuzoxstat was 8.9 times. Allergy or asthma was montelukast was 9.5 times. Acidity was pantoprazole 13.9 times. Liver health was UDCA, which is 3.8 times. So let's have a look at what Dr. Syriac Abby Phillips says. Government reports on banned drugs are opaque and often misunderstood, creating the impression that generics are of poor quality. The study aimed to clear this confusion with evidence. Drugs tested the following essential medicines across critical therapeutic categories were put to test. For each medicine, branded versions, branded generics, and Jan Aushadhi or trade generics, what patients actually buy from pharmacies were tested. Antibiotics, azithromycin, amoxicillin, rifaximin, telmisartan, amlodipine, clopidogrel, atorvastatin, and aspirin. Pain and inflammation, paracetamol, ibuprofen, prednisolone. Thyroid and supplements, thyroxine, folic acid, calcium plus vitamin D. Allergy and respiratory, montelukast, cetirizine. Diabetes and gout, metformin, and febuzoxstat. So, how much you can save? As for the medicine, rifaximin 400 mg. Treatment duration is 1 month, which is 3 per day, 90 tablets. Cheapest option is Dava, rupees 16 per tab. Cost is 1,440. Costliest option is Rifagut, which is 443.80. Rifagut 400, which is 43.80 per tab. Cost is 3,942 rupees. Savings is 2,502 rupees, 63.5%. Atorvastatin 10 milligrams. Treatment duration is 3 months, which is 1 per day, 90 tablets. Cheapest option is Jan Aushadhi, which is 0.88 per tab. Cost is rupees 79. Costliest option is Atorlip, which is 5 rupees 0.67 per tab. The cost is 510. Savings is rupees 431, 84.5%. Montelukast is 10 mg. Treatment duration 3 months, 1 per day, 90 tablets. Jan Aushadhi, cheapest option, 1.98 per tab. 178 is cost. Costless option, Montec, which is 10. Montec 10, which is 18.72 per tab. 1,685 is the cost. Savings is 1,507, 89.4%. Calcium plus vitamin D 500 milligrams. The medicine treatment duration is 6 months, 1 per day, 180 tablets. Cheapest option Jan Aushadhi 0.77 tab per tab. Cost is 139 rupees. Costliest option Shell Cal 500 10.57 per tab, cost is 1903, savings is 1764, which is 92.7%. So all these sources are the government's Jan Shruti, Kerala Medical Services Corporation, KMSCL, private or commercial, branded drugs, branded generics, private chains, Dava India, generic Aadhaar, local distributors. So let's take a look at some few question and answers from Dr. Syriac Abby Phillips, a session with him, clinician, scientist, and president of the Mission for Ethics and Science in Health, MISH, explains the motivation behind the study, with surprising findings, what this means for patients and doctors alike. Why is there so much debate on branded versus generic medicines? Medicines are a major financial burden in India, and many families doubt whether cheaper generics are as effective as costly branded drugs. Why did you decide to conduct a quality study on drugs? Government reports on banned drugs are opaque and often misunderstood, creating the impression that generics are of poor quality. The study aimed to clear this confusion with evidence. What is the most important highlight of the study? Quality is not linked to price. A rupees 1 tablet performed just as well as one costing rupees 10, disproving the myth that cheaper means worse. What were your criteria for choosing drugs and why focus on chronic diseases? We tested commonly prescribed medicines for chronic diseases because they have a wide therapeutic range. This means checking pharmaceutical equivalence is sufficient. For narrow range drugs like immunosuppressants, bioequivalence testing is also needed, but that's a far more expensive process. What were the challenges in conducting such a study? We tested 131 samples across 22 therapeutic categories, each requiring 40 drugs. Getting the same batch for all types was tough. To reflect real world purchases, researchers acted as mystery shoppers and bought medicines from 7 sources. Were you surprised by the results? Yes, every single drug passed. What are the limitations of the study? We assessed pharmaceutical quality, not clinical effectiveness. Sampling was random, but only one batch was tested. Let's have a look at the main body of the article. Unikrishnan S. Thiruvathupuram has given us this article. Jitin, name change, was an auto rickshaw driver in Kerala, ferrying school children through the crowded lanes every morning and evening. His modest earnings barely covered food and his children's education. Then came cirrhosis, complicated, unforgiving, and an infection that tipped him into hepatic encephalopathy, his brain clouded by rising ammonia levels. He was referred to Dr. Syriac Abby Phillips, clinician scientist and one of the country's leading science communicators based in Ernakulam. The treatment plan was clear: ammonia reducing therapies with rifaximin at the center. I prescribed it for 6 weeks, recalls Dr. Phillips. But just 4 weeks later, Jitin returned not for routine follow-up, but in a coma, the worst stage of brain failure. He spent 2 days in the ICU and nearly a week in the hospital. His wife, desperate, borrowed 80,000 from neighbors and friends to pay the bills. At first, Dr. Phillips thought Jitin had ignored medical advice. The truth was far more devastating. Jitin had taken rifaximin for 15 days, then the money ran out. At rupees 42 a tablet, 2 a day, the drug cost him 2,520 rupees a month, an impossible sum for a man living hand to mouth. He chose food and education for his children over medicine for himself. The deeper tragedy was his fear of generics. Jitin was too afraid to buy a cheaper version, afraid it wouldn't work, afraid he would be scolded, afraid of the stigma. Dr. Phillips, too, was hesitant, unsure of their quality, and wary of backlash if things went wrong. That fear, shared by doctors and patients alike, is what keeps affordable healthcare out of reach. It is not evidence, but opinion, hearsay, and habit that fuels this mistrust, and it is ordinary people like Jitin who pay the price. Determined to uncover the truth behind this concern, Dr. Phillips turned to Mission for Ethics and Science in Health, MESH, a non profit organization where he serves as president. Together, they launched what became the largest crowd funded research on generics globally. In just a week, more than 1,000 people contributed without conflict of interest to support the cause. The study helped resolve a major dilemma for clinicians: how to ensure patients continue treatment without interruption due to costs. Medical expenses, especially on medicines, remain a crushing burden, with patients often forced to discontinue therapy midway. In fact, approximately 62% of all money Indian households spend on healthcare goes directly toward buying medicines. For chronic illnesses, adherence to prescribed protocols is the most critical factor in safeguarding patients' quality of life and treatment outcomes. Generic medicines were designed to address this issue. They contain the exact same active ingredients as branded versions and are sold after the original patent expires. The Indian government promotes them through initiatives like the Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana PMBJP, while states like Kerala distribute them through their medical services cooperations. Yet, the question of quality lingered. Doctors and patients alike worried that cheaper drugs might be less effective. That fear has now been addressed by the MESH study. The research found that genetics are equally effective despite costing 5 to 14 times less. On average, generic medicines were nearly 50% cheaper than branded ones. So, the larger lesson: Jitin's story is not an isolated one. It reflects that everyday struggles of millions of patients who face impossible choices between medicine and survival. The evidence now shows that generics can bridge this gap, providing effective treatment at a fraction of the cost. For clinicians, the challenge is to overcome ingrained mistrust and embrace evidence based prescribing. For patients, it is about reclaiming access to affordable healthcare without fear. Study highlights 131 medicine samples across 22 treatment categories covered conditions: diabetes, heart disease, infections, pain, stomach issues. Same batch products tested at Eureka Analytical Services, which is an accredited laboratory for rigorous testing against the Indian Pharmacopoeia 2022 IP 2022 standards, conducted during October to December 2025, not yet peer reviewed.